Good evening. Today is June 18th, 2019. Our thought for today is be mindful of how you approach time. Watch, watch the clock. Watching the clock is not the same as watching the sunrise. It's by Sophia Bedford Pierce. I want to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. Tonight we have a special guest with us tonight, a special church, the Harvest Baptist Church. Pastor Culpepper, sir, if you Culpepper, sir, if you would please come tonight. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your ministry, and please pray for our community.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Baines, for the invitation to be a small part of our meeting tonight. A great honor to be here. We are in our little corner of the county, Harvest Baptist Church, and multicultural, multiracial, multi-generational church that God's really blessing for His glory. We're seeing a resurgence in cooperation between churches. So we are really grateful for what God's doing there. We're blessed to have a very vibrant food ministry that between 200 to 500 families a week come through our food ministry. It's kind of hidden in the country. Nobody knows about it until they come one time. Then they tell other people, so we're grateful for that. But we're also blessed, Brother Stan Edwards, to be our representative and kind of goes to bat for us, and we are grateful for him. And we're just honored to be here tonight, and thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, we just thank you so much for the rain. Lord, we thank you for each and every blessing that you give to us, Lord, that so often we just kind of skim over, Lord, as though it's just something that comes. But Lord, we thank you for the blessing of today. Lord, the privilege to live in the greatest county in the United States of America. Lord, the blessing of calling this place home. Lord, I thank you for each leader that is representing us tonight. Lord, I thank you for those that, as your word says, that you ordain authority. And Lord, we thank you that you are in sovereign control of everything. So Lord, I just pray for wisdom tonight for our leaders, for Chairman Baines, for the other commissioners, for the support staff. Lord, I pray, Lord, that your Holy Spirit would guide their thoughts. Lord, give them wisdom beyond their years. Lord, even beyond their experience. So, Lord, that they can lead us well in our county. But most of all, Lord, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, that did something for us that we can never do for ourselves. You gave your Son to die on a cross to pay a price that we could never, ever pay for ourselves. So, Lord, we thank you for the hope that we have through the gospel. Lord, we thank you for the truth, Lord, in the midst of uncertainty in the world today, that one thing never changes, and that is you and your word. So, Lord, we give you this time, and we pray, Lord, that everything tonight will be done in accordance with your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you so much for what you do for our community. I got a little token of appreciation here for you, sir. And we're so thankful for what you do and the services that you provide in our community.
Mr. Chairman, if I might too, I'd like to. If you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, Reverend Culpepper's church has, as he mentioned, a tremendous food ministry. I've seen that work firsthand, and it really, really helps sustain that part of our county and the parts of several other counties. So if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, he'd be glad to have you down there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And so can y'all give the pastor a hand, please, for being here tonight? Next, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Commissioner Edwards, if you would, lead us, please. Next, we're ready for our agenda adoption. Tonight, we have a few changes, please. The first one, we got some number issues on here, numbering issues, so we want to go down to number 10. We want to make, you see number 10, we got down for two things. It says 10 and 11. So we want to make that number 10. Then we want to make number 12, 11. Next one, we want to make number 13. The next one, we want to make number 14. The next one, we want to make number 15, 16, 17, 18, number 19, and down right there where number 19 is for zoning, it says, you see it, 2 20s right there, we want to make that 19 and 20. Also, we want to add an executive session. And for number K on the consent agenda, we want to remove Ms. Gunner. We'll remove that. And for O, we want to make that O is the sheriff office is applying for a gang suppression grant. We want to add an O to the consent agenda. The sheriff office is applying for a gang suppression grant. Commissioners, if you have it, I seek a motion, please.
Move for approval of the agenda as corrected or restated by the chair.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is, you know, we're making so many changes. Could they have been did a little bit earlier so we could just have the council somewhat of a clean?
Well, we had some issues. Some of this stuff came up late, so.
Okay.
Any more discussions? All in favor? Pass 5-0, thank you. Next is an opportunity that it's citizens' comments. This is an opportunity we let citizens come up and speak about agenda topics only. You have 3 minutes to do so. Please come and state your name and your address for the record, please. Agenda topics only.
Good evening. Name is Archie Shepherd,
Good evening, sir.
9169 Village Drive, Covington, Georgia. I come before you tonight on the last 2 SPLOSH committees. I was a member of that committee. My understanding was that each commissioner had a certain amount of money to use in their district. And item 17 here tonight about the agreement between Union County Board and Rising Sun. I see where the board approved the agreement, and I was just wondering, it's going to be brought up tonight, but also when I was before you the last time, I brought up something tie in to this, and that was the $300,000 that was spent for the audit, forensic audit. And ain't but 2 people on this board was here at that particular time. And this stuff is still never been no, we as citizens had never got a report back of and these people's names are floating around out here as criminals because it hadn't been clear. So I wish it was some way that you could get this cleared up and get these people's name either cleared up or whatnot, because they are, for the last couple of years, they had never made no decision about what had a crime been committed or not. And last but least, I hope there's some way that when people come up here, people are crazy now, and when you come in and give your name and your address, I think that ought to be a change, because people are so crazy now. You do something, they might come to your house and find out where you live at or whatnot. So I really wish that y'all could get together and maybe think about making a change on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Barbara Morgan, 2158 East Street, Northeast Covington, Georgia, 30014. I have a comment about item 17. There's a lot of history involving the acquisition of property in the Nelson Heights community. My question as a layperson, again, there's a lot of history here, is why does the county need to own more property there?
Thank you.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larry McSwain, 35 Glengarry Chase, Covington. I wanted to address what was item 17. I believe it's now been renumbered to 16. It also concerns the purchase of property in the Nelson Heights area. I certainly do not object to adding park facilities, sports fields, with the splash money that was allocated for District 2, but like Ms. Morgan, I question the need for additional ownership of for the county ownership of property in that area. I believe that most of you have received a note from me that points out that we already own 11 acres on the site of the Nelson Heights Center, plus the county owns 2 additional tracts totaling about 3 acres. Plenty of room there for existing facilities, and I'd urge the money be spent to build those fields on existing land. In addition, purchasing land from the Rising Sun Christian Church should not even be considered until taxpayers are repaid the approximately $14,000 for the property lien that was left intact on a previous purchase the county made from that church, and for fees that the church owed Nelson Heights Community Center that were never paid. Lastly, the $30,000 price tag being offered for the 1.9 acres is significantly above the tax assessor's appraisal of $22,500. Taxpayers need to be reassured that if this purchase were to move forward at any time, that there have been independent appraisals to justify the purchase price that's being offered. I ask that the purchase of this land from Rising Sun Church be postponed until all the past issues are cleared up and until the county has fully evaluated the existing property for the development of additional facilities in District 2. Someone mentioned that the SPLOSH requirements for improvements in District 2 made this purchase necessary. When I read the list that Lloyd has a minute ago, it simply said park improvements in District 2. It did not mandate land acquisition in District 2. And even if that were the case, that land acquisition does not have to go forward at this point. What we can do simply is reevaluate the whole need for land in that area and be sure we're spending our SPLOSH money in the appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. I'm sorry. Yeah, citizen comments. I apologize. Now we're on item number 6, Chairman's report. Commissioners, just want to make sure we poll the board for the fireworks for the 4th of July. Make sure it's okay that we shoot fireworks off of the courthouse. Is that okay with you guys? We do it every year. and the judges are okay with it? Okay. So I'm just polling the board. Commissioner Edwards, you okay with it? Commissioner Mason? Commissioner Schultz? Commissioner Henderson? Commissioner Calvin? All right, thank you. Also, tonight we have a special guest for the chairman's report tonight. We have Dean Hicks, who is the dean of Oxford College. Sir, if you would please come tonight. I think you can bring your son up and Lori up to us if you would like. Know they're here to support you. You're more than welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Baines, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Oxford College of Emory University, and I thank you for the invitation to spend a few moments talking about our college and our role in the community. I know there's a big agenda. We were moving numbers around like 18 and 19, so there's a lot to do tonight. I will just say a word about what we're doing at Oxford College, and I hope that you see us as partners with the county. And we're doing more and more with community engagement as a vital part of our educational mission. And so it's an honor to be here to talk a little bit about that. Which way? Okay, advance, please. Emory University was founded in Oxford, Georgia in 1836, and for the first 80 years, Oxford was Emory College, and the entire university was there. And then in 1915, Emory decided to build in Atlanta as well. But Oxford College and that campus has been here for 180 years, and we've been a partner that whole time with the county, with the city of Oxford, with the city of Covington, and our neighbors. And we are really proud to continue in that work. Some of you may know about the mission of Oxford, and others may not. But there are now 2 ways into the undergraduate program at Emory University, and over a quarter of the students at the university start out here in Oxford. And so we're welcoming almost 500 students this year out of the 1,900 who are coming into Emory overall, and they spend their first 2 years here on our beautiful historic campus in Newton County and live in the county, and we're 100% residential as well. So they're all here as guests in the county unless they're citizens of Newton County. Our job is to build a great residential liberal arts experience for our students. What we can offer on our small campus is that individualized, personalized experience for students. And our most common class is 16 students. Our average is 19 students. And that's what advantage we give, is preparing students in the most diverse campus that I know to learn about the world and to learn about themselves and to be mentored by faculty and staff who care about them. I will bet that many of you don't know that we had almost 18,000 applications for Little Oxford College this year for 500 slots. That's one of the better percentages in terms of applicants per spot in the United States. We had more applications than any liberal arts college in the United States last year and in recent years. And that's because we're part of Emory, and 6 out of 10 applicants to the university apply to come to Oxford or Emory in Atlanta. And we are really proud of that, the number of people who want to be a part of our community and come here to this part of Georgia to learn. We also are really good in retaining our students and helping them to succeed. So that retention rate to the second year of 95 to 97%, again, is one of the tops in the country, and that's because we invest in caring for students so that they will flourish once they get here. We have about 1 in 5 students coming from Georgia. Our roots are deep, and we have a strong sense of place in Newton County, and 1 in 5 students today are coming from our state, and a third are coming from this region. And then I'd say, it's important that they're also coming from all over the world. So 1 in 5 students now are coming from China and India and Canada and Mexico and Europe and Africa and so forth. And we believe that enriches our community. We have a great sense of diversity and inclusivity there, and they're learning for a world that's ever-changing, and the whole world is represented on our little campus. What are we focusing on? First, that academic experience for the first 2 years of the undergraduate degree. So 18, 19, and 20-year-olds are coming to this part of the country, to this county, to learn and to grow up and to develop socially and intellectually. So not only do we focus with great classes, we also focus on leadership development. And so the kind of work that you all do is the kind of work to which our students aspire. We want them to be civic leaders as well as leaders in business and education and religion and nonprofit sectors and so forth. And so leadership is something we focus on very closely. And then we focus on the value question. We know that the education at Oxford is expensive. It's expensive for anyone. And in the state of Georgia, where the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship are so important to education, we know that we have to provide a really good product as a private institution if we're going to compete with the great publics here as well. And so we first have to make sure it's a great education and then emphasize affordability and accessibility to what we do. Faculty are what drives us. We have 100 faculty dedicated to that education of our students, and they have chosen to be at Oxford and not at other larger institutions around, including our other part of Emory in Atlanta, because they value that undergraduate experience and helping students to grow up and to grow and to learn. We want them to be leaders in the public eye as well. They write for the Covington News, and they write for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and the New York Times and USA Today and Fortune and so forth, because our faculty need to have a voice in public as well to be leaders in their fields. We were privileged to have Congressman John Lewis as our commencement speaker just last month. What an honor it was to welcome him. In February, I was privileged to lead a conversation with President Carter. Actually, he led me on the topics he wanted to talk about. What a privilege it is for him to thank Oxford College and to be a part of that Emory University community. He's now a tenured faculty member at Oxford College and 3 other schools at Emory. And we're friends with Agnes Scott as well, and had the president out recently to speak. We are deeply committed to being partners in this community, and that's why I'm standing before you today, is to ask you to help us to find ways that we can be a resource for this community. We hired my colleague Laura Gaffney as Community Relations Director a 1.5 years ago, and she's over here. She just bought a house this afternoon and closed in Newton County, so we're pleased about that. That's great. And she's smiling, so that's also good. Our students serve 13,000 hours each year in this community, and we partner with the Arts Association and many other communities. I joined the board of directors of the Chamber in order to be a better and fuller partner with the community. Our campus, and I hope you get a chance to visit it, come to the dining hall or come to our programs, you will see that the world is there. And for me, it's not just the demographics, that we live in a quite diverse county. Our campus is quite diverse, but our students report vis-a-vis other campuses around the country. Of 275 campuses, for the last 5 years, our students have reported the highest student satisfaction on mutual respect and learning from people who are different than them, in being able to put themselves in another person's shoes. And those are the kind of values that our Newton County and Covington and Oxford values as well. First off, we're an educational institution, but I wanted to share this slide with you all with our economic impact. We have on the Oxford campus 350 employees. That makes us one of the larger employers in the county, so we're a significant economic actor, and we're pleased to bring families into the community who spend money with their students and their children, the parents, and so forth. On average, we contribute about $79 or $80 million annually to the economy of Newton County, $260 million to the Georgia economy. And we think that's an important part of being a citizen in this area, is contributing economically as well. We hope you get a chance to visit campus. It's like this beautiful building, a very historic one, and since 2005 we've committed to renovating it and to maintaining it and making it that place of pride for Emory, for Oxford, and for the community. And we're working on a new student center in the old dining hall, and that's a $17 million project that will be ready in December. And so in January, when the students come back from their winter break, from Christmas and New Year's, they will be part of a new student experience, a new student center that will welcome them. And as you may have known, because some of you have been there, the new dining hall, which opened 2 years ago, has actually been our lead part of community engagement because so many people come to eat, and we're the only restaurant in Oxford, actually. So we hope that's an important part of civic engagement as well. So I wanted to stop there just to really run through a few slides to talk about our mission at Oxford College. I'm trying to be out in the community as much as possible, as are my partners on the faculty and staff, led by Laura Gaffney as our Community Relations Director. I hope there are ways we can partner with you all as a county commission and individually with you as our commissioner, as our leaders in this county. So I think I'll stop there, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. I just want to say quickly, because we gotta go into zoning tonight, but I think the dean is being a little modest tonight. But the dean, they are all over the place. Oxford College is partnering throughout the county, doing different things. Not just the leadership, but the kids is doing it as well. You won't find it strange to look up and see some of the kids volunteering, doing different things in our community. So we just want to tip our hats off to you guys, and y'all doing a heck of a job over there, and we greatly appreciate it. Commissioner
Thank you, Mr.
Henderson.
Lee. You know, this being in District 4, you know, we realize, we know that Oxford College is the birthplace of Emory University. And, you know, we have enjoyed over the years walking and mingling with the students. You know, whenever I'm feeling a little down, I go out and mingle with them and talk about the history of this county and the history of Oxford. And just one last quick thing. Anyone who has worked, and you correct me if I'm wrong, who has worked at Oxford College, if their child has a great grade average, can attend the undergraduate school free.
That's right. And so we're proud of that, and the academic strength that we have, the partnerships we've made, the Martin Luther King Scholarship that provides a full scholarship every year for each class year for 4 years for someone from Newton County. And so we'll keep trying to be good partners, and look forward to that. So thank you very much.
No, thank you, sir. Guys, can we get a quick picture with the dean, please? It is, next we're gonna go to item 19. It is approximately 7:35. We're gonna go into our zoning tonight, our public hearing. Ms. Applewhite is here tonight. If you would, please come and lead us, please.
Good evening, Chairman and Board of Commissioners.
Good evening.
This evening we have two cases. The first one is a rezoning case. Sorry, this is a little bit. Case number REZ 19-000004. Location is 10620 Covington Bypass Road. There's approximately 265 feet of road frontage. Zoning is R3. Existing land use map is mixed commercial, and the proposed zoning is for highway commercial. The parcel size is 2.19 acres. The parcel number is 64B-095A. It's in the watershed, Yellow River watershed, and in Commission District 4. An applicant's intent is to establish satisfactory zoning for an established commercial development. This case was approved by the Planning Commission on May 28th it was recommended for approval with staff's recommended conditions. This is an aerial photograph of the location of the property off the bypass road. The future land use, mixed commercial. Current zoning R3, Yellow River watershed. This is a current survey of what it looks like, accurate depiction. And in conclusion, the proposed zoning and use is consistent with the policies and intent of the future land use and the comprehensive plan with approved zonings in the area. Given the land use and zoning designation of the surrounding properties, there is justification for approval. Recommended conditions. If this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved highway commercial, conditional subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following development standards. A, if any improvements are made to the entrance, applicant will provide satisfactory ingress and egress for the site to be approved by GDOT. B, a 75-foot transitional buffer must be maintained in perpetuity along the north and northwest property lines as long as it adjoins residential zoning. The buffer width may be reduced by 20 feet by the addition of a solid opaque fence or wall at least 8 feet in height. And C, an employee parking area containing acceptable material, including one handicap space that will contain required pavement or concrete, will be established and developed on the property. And are there any questions?
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? No questions? Thank you, ma'am. We're going to take this opportunity to open it up. Thank you. We're going to open this portion of our public hearing up for those that want to, for the applicant and those that want to speak in favor tonight. You have 10 minutes to do so. You may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Those that want to speak in favor, you may come at this time. Anyone want to speak in favor? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that want to oppose tonight. You also have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name, your address for the record, please. You may come at this time. Anyone want to oppose? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Commissioners, I seek a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to approve it with the recommendation of Ms. Forgive me.
Applewhite.
Ms. Applewhite.
Can I get a second, please? Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next also is zoning. Item number 20, Ms. Applewhite, if you would, please.
Okay, our second case tonight is a overlay tier change. Case number is OTC 19-000001. It's located at 513 Kirkland Road. Existing land use, it's Parks, Recreation, and Conservation. Existing zoning is R2, which is single-family residential. There is no existing overlay. We're moving towards that. The proposed overlay is Almond Overlay Tier 2. The parcel size is 43.40 acres. Tax parcel 26-028. It's in the Yellow River watershed and in Commission District 4. An applicant's intent is to bring the property into the Almond Overlay Tier 2 to ensure the subject property has enhanced development standards and to have a consistent status with properties to the north of Kirkland Road and the Jack Neely Road. And this case too was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission on May 28th, 2019. This is an aerial of the locations at the corner of Jack Neely Road and Kirkland Road. This is the future land use map, Parks Recreation, current zoning. And this is the overlay map as it is currently. So it is actually adjacent to Almond Overlay Tier 1 and it's close proximity to Tier 2. So they're asking to go to Tier 2, which is non-residential and mixed use. And the property is in the corner where the star is. It's in the Yellow River watershed. This is a current survey of the parcel. It's a dated survey, it's an older survey, but it's the most current one we have. And in conclusion, findings, given the existing land uses, zonings, and overlay tiers in the immediately surrounding area, staff is of the opinion that the proposed overlay tier change would be appropriate for the subject site. Staff has not identified any substantial potential adverse impacts that would affect the neighboring properties, transportation network, or citizens. And recommended conditions: if this petition is approved by the Board of Commissioners, it should be approved R2, Tier 2, Almond Overlay. Conditional subject to the owner's agreement to the following enumerated conditions. Where these conditions conflict with the stipulations and offerings contained in the letter of intent, these conditions shall supersede unless specifically stipulated by the Board of Commissioners. And there's just one recommendation: compliance with Division 460 Almond Overlay of the 2009 Newton County Zoning Ordinance. And I do believe the applicant is present, sir, but if there are any questions?
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
All right.
Thank you. We want to take an opportunity to open up this portion of our public hearing tonight for the applicant and those that want to speak in favor. You have 10 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman,
How
members
you doing,
of the
sir?
commission, my name is Philip Johnson. I reside at 8241 Turnberry Court, Covington, Georgia, 30014. I've represented the Neely family for quite a while. They're the owners of the property. This has been used for quite a while as a par 3 executive golf course. The Neely family member who ran that, Sandra Bowden, is she's kind of wearing out on the golf business, and I can understand that because I'm in the golf business. But so we are looking at moving forward with marketing this property. The Neely family has other property in the area, which is in the Almond Road, the Almond Overlay District. And in looking at it, at the provisions of the overlay and talking with Judy Johnson about it, we decided we would like to request annexation of this property into the overlay, and of course submit ourselves to the enhanced design standards, which are part of the Almond overlay. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I think the staff report covered pretty much everything.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, commissioners?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor tonight? Anyone else want to speak in favor tonight? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those that want to oppose tonight. If you would, please come and state your name, your address for the record, please. If anyone want to oppose tonight. Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed as well. Commissioner, I think it's in Commissioner Henderson District. Let's seek a motion, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this with the Planning Commission recommendation for approval.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. And we're gonna go over to the county manager. That concludes our public hearing, our zoning tonight. Now we're gonna go over to our county manager report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, we have a look at the risk management or HR updates. We've had 29 new hires over the past month, and we've separated 7 people. Our employee population now is at 670. Full-time and part-time are at 676. We are seeing an uptick in the primary commercial permitting. During this period of time, we've permitted a little over $2.5 million worth of primary commercial projects, which would be things like C-stores and so forth. Primary residential, we've issued 233 permits, and we're about on track with where we were last year as well. And you can see that recap, and then signs was another major area. 27 have been processed through. Public Works and the Road Department, work orders for the past, for the month of May, District 1, 99, 257. District 3, we had 115, District 4, 29, and District 5, 81. Our LMIG resurfacing projects that have been completed in May, Gum Creek Trail, Highland Meadows, and Northwood Subdivision. These were all in District 3, and we tried to hit as many projects as we knew we could. Once we mobilize in an area, we do try to concentrate as much as possible to get the paving that's in those areas. We also hired a contractor to replace the Trotters Walk, Ellington, and we talked about those, but they have been completed during this month. And then under the 2011 SPLOST, I'm sorry I skipped over, Mount Zion Road, we're doing a patching and repair, and we'll be paving that in the future. And finally, we want to congratulate Devin Lester, who's actually here tonight. Annually we have a health and wellness and benefits seminar that we put on for the employees, and we are given a $50,000 a year grant from Cigna to pay for partial salary for a wellness coordinator, and then to put on things like the health fair. This huge green egg was purchased out of the proceeds from that grant. And we had about 200 people come, which is a little over, right around a third of our population. And then we had 17 vendors on site. So it was a very successful day. And I got to say that Mr. Lester is a lucky man. This was his Father's Day gift, I understand. And I got a card. So I need you to call my wife. And, but anyway, we had a great time, and this is one of the things that we're trying to do with our employees. Also, I wanted to mention today that I was fortunate enough to attend a luncheon over at the Community Service Center over there by the library on Hazelbrand Road. It's also part of the Juvenile Court System's offices, and they are operating a camp that has grown out of a truancy program that was run by Judge Carter. It was a great experience. They had about 20 kids there today, and they have a total of about 40. And so, and these kids are being fed breakfast and lunch. But what they're also doing is they are providing them. There's a teacher on site, and they are providing them with tutoring and so forth, so that they get caught up from them being out truant all year and all of the lessons and stuff that they've missed. So it's an educational program. It's also a life skills program, and it's also a feeding program to make sure these kids get nutrition and meals. And I just would like to say, I know that if there's someone who's looking for a volunteer opportunity, as Commissioner Edwards mentioned earlier, I'm sure if you contact Judge Carter or Judge Roberts, they would be glad to have you help them with some of the programs they handle with the kids and with their families. So they're doing good work over there, and just wanted to mention. So, and that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. I want to recognize Mr. Zach Ames here tonight. There you go, sir. If you would please stand so you can be recognized. Zach will be going on the library board. So we thank you for your willingness to serve this community, sir. If we can do anything for you, please don't hesitate to let us know. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you. Commissioners, you had an opportunity to look at the consent agenda. I seek a motion that we approve it, please. It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Next, we have the financial report. Ms. Cross, please, if you would come tonight.
Good evening. Presented tonight are the May 2019 financials. So currently, we are 11 months into the fiscal year. We are about 92% then of our budget. On general fund revenue, we are at 59.7 for budget, and we're currently at 64.6, so we're at 99.2% of our overall budget for 2019. I believe I mentioned last presentation, if you look at taxes, we're at 99.98%. Included in that is our local option sales tax revenue. That revenue just for this month was up 23%. So we're seeing in my current estimates, we could end the year about 1.5 million in that one line item alone over our original budget. Middle of the page, you have general fund actual revenue. This is a trend throughout the 11 months. You'll see, obviously, most of our revenue comes in October, November, and January. June will be very small. We collect most of our revenue in those 3 months. Next slide just depicts our budget to actual, and as I said, we're at 99% of budget currently in May. If you skip over to page 6 in your booklets, you have general fund expenditures. We are currently at 83.5% of budget. If you look at the other cost category, we're at 59%. That is where our contingency for new positions is, and we're currently at 1.6 million still in that fund. So May had 3 payrolls, so that is why May trended a little higher. And as I mentioned, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're about 83% of budget. In your booklets on page 12 is general fund expenditures by department. Once again, all departments are on track. The non-departmental at 25%, that is where the contingency for new positions is, and so that was why that one's at 25%. The 142% for government buildings, once again, that is where the credit for the ABM savings of $425,000 is that we have not realized. I do not anticipate realizing that by the end of this fiscal year. So that credit will probably not be realized. I anticipate we can offset that with that additional loss revenue I discussed. The next page is our overall general fund revenues and expenditures. We're at 64.6 million of revenue and 54.8 on expenditures. So we're about 9.8 million to the good right now. As I said, I anticipate the local option sales tax revenue increase, as well as the savings from the contingency for new positions. So right now, between those two, we estimate to end the year about 2.5 to 3 million under budget. The next slide is our fund balance. There's no changes there. As I said, throughout the year, that number will move, and we'll have a better idea generally about where we end the year by end of August as we finish up our end of the year transactions. The next page is your enterprise funds. Water fund currently is at 93% on revenue and 65% on expenses. Solid waste fund is at 95% on revenue and 79% on expenses. And the Gaithers fund is at 72% on revenue and 66% on expenses. The 2005 SPLOST, and that is on page 33 of your booklets. As I said, the COPS 06 administration building debt is the only thing we're paying out of that SPLOST currently. The next page is the 2011 SPLOST. We are finalizing the remaining projects in that. We anticipate to be able to finish those probably within the next fiscal year. Depending on the fire station, that activity will begin, and the historic jail. The next slide is the 2017 SPLOST. We are currently at 22.8 life to date on collections. Most of the projects will start in the next few months when we start using the GO bond proceeds on some of those projects. The next slide shows at the bottom of that page the collections against projection. We've collected 22.8 million and our projection was 19.8. So currently we're about 3 million over. And as I said, we're trending about 11 to 15% over prior year collections. Impact fees, we have collected 909,000 this year in impact fees. And the last slide is the debt service fund. There were no changes this month for that. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Nicole. Commissioners, any questions, please? Commissioner Henderson?
How could, excuse me, how could I find, some information on the other enterprise funds,
The other enterprise funds, meaning
like the,
solid waste fund on.
The, water and sewer authority and
The Water and Sewer Authority is a component unit. You can contact them to get information. I'll be glad to reach out if you want to let me know what you would like to see.
So, all three of those additional enterprise funds, I would have to. I have a
The
quick
enterprise, the
question.
water fund,
Yeah, well, the water and sewer around Beach Road.
they're included in your monthly packet, a general overall monthly information. But if you want to just send me an email perhaps with what you'd like.
Yes, ma'am. And I guess this question, Lord, to long-headed. We were supposed to, I think, we had talked about and requested it about, I think a few months ago. And it was supposed to be, public information as far as what's being spent out of those funds and how it's being spent. And where we at with that?
We're still building the transparency module, but all of the budget documents are available on the website. And so same thing with any of the other information, how much money we've collected and all should all be there. And if there's anything in particular that you or any of the members of the citizens of the public, you know, we'll be glad to get that forth. If it's not there, we'll get it.
Okay. Well, because there was some question that some of my constituents
Sure.
had asked me. And I just want to make sure we get the information.
Yes, sir.
We have a kickoff call actually the end of this week regarding the open transparency module, and they'll begin implementation.
Any more questions? Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you, Nicole. So, if we rock along for the next 2 weeks and we have a budget surplus, I know we have a budget, a FY 2020 budget on the agenda tonight. So, if that budget were to be approved, and this may be for council as well, I don't question for council. So if that budget were to be approved tonight, no matter what that budget is, and we have a surplus, what are our options in terms of a budget? Is there a budget amendment that can be performed to go back, or does that require all the legalities of?
So if we end this year with a budget surplus, that rolls into your fund balance, which is one of the things we're working on to build up to 5 months of reserves.
So,
Once we have that, we'll have other discussions as to how you want to use that. As far as if we approve the budget tonight, that is a budget that would be set forth for 2020. After, if for some reason there's any adjustments you want to make after the fact, we simply do a budget amendment after it's approved.
So I'm not trying to pin you down. So
Okay.
if you had to guess, where do you think we're headed in terms of the surplus?
2.5 to 3 million. And
Say that again?
2.5 to 3 million. Most of it being the contingency for contingency for open positions that aren't going to be filled. We're at 1.6 million. There were a few that were filled, so we'll probably end, around 1.5. I still anticipate. And then lost revenue, as I said. It looks like we may end about 1.5 over what we budgeted. So that's where the two big pieces are right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Schultz?
So just going down that path, this may be more of a question during the budget, but, so let's just say, for example, that we were over that 2.5 million. Is that what you're saying would be the overage or the 1.5 million? Yours,
The surplus at the end of this year is
Yeah.
estimate 2.5.
okay, and so that goes into fund balance.
Mhm.
So back to Commissioner Cowan's question during the work session of service delivery, that's an option to fill, to be able to fund that service delivery.
Yes, so those reserves that we've talked about, that's what we're building. And that's what you would use for unexpected needs that may arise. Yes.
Anyone else? Thank you. You want to stay, Ms. Cross, for the next, please? Next is, finance consideration, discussion of resolution R061820, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Newton County, Georgia, to adopt the annual operating budget for the fiscal year of 2020.
So the budget resolution you have has Exhibit A. Exhibit A details out all of the funds, general fund, all of the special revenue funds, and so forth, because each of those funds would be adopted with this resolution.
Thank you. You have anything, Mr. Kirk, before we go forward?
No, sir, I don't, other than just to say I appreciate all of everyone's efforts on making this, working on this budget this year.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you guys. You did a great job. Commissioners, I seek a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve Resolution R061820, which is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Newton County, Georgia, to adopt an annual operating budget for fiscal year 2020, beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time I'd like to introduce a substitute motion to amend or put up for discussion at least the resolution as stated, minus $300,000 for capital improvements and $200,000 for fleet management program. That's my substitute motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? No, you already second. Is there a second? That motion failed for the lack of support. The original motion is back on the floor. Any discussion? Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm still concerned where we are. I was hoping this year, and I think Commissioner Edwards also, that we would be able to trim down the potential millage rate and everything. But I'm a little nervous about, even though if we have some success with our service delivery strategy and end up with a budget surplus, even though, you know, we still got, some of those are contingency funds set aside for filling positions. Is that right? That we're still not going to have enough to make ends meet. And I'm just a little concerned with it. It's just a lot of heartburn with this thing. It really is. Of course, Lloyd, you and I have had multiple discussions about this. And Stan and I have had multiple discussions about this. I wish there was some way, and I had asked to see a proposed alternative millage and budget, but we don't have one, so we have what we have tonight. So for my comments, I guess for us, it's an up or down, yes or no vote. Is that correct?
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any more discussion? Commissioner Schultz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, in this proposed operating budget, are we presuming that we're putting unfilled positions back into contingency, or does
They
it-
are in the contingency.
So that's presumed with this particular motion. We don't have to add that.
No,
specific
I
to the
included that
motion.
as part of this budget. It is in contingency.
Anyone else? All in favor? All opposed?
I don't know where I'm at, to be honest with you.
Come on, guys. Come on. Come on, guys. Make it. Come on. Listen. No, you fine. You fine. You fine. You can go. You can go. You can go. Yes.
I am not voting.
Okay. Guys, I'm gonna call it again. I'm gonna call it again. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. So it's a tie vote. So, hold on, let's do this, let's do the vote. So it's a tie vote, 2-2. And, okay, so, Commissioner Henderson, can you, tell us just why you abstained, please?
Well, because I have to have not received enough information from this budget to make a good vote. So,
Okay,
that being said, I get a vote to give my vote to chair.
okay, all right. And I vote, for approval. Thank you. I vote to approve. So it's 3-2, 1 extension. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I just wanted to make sure, some commissioners look confused. We were voting on the original motion and not my substitute motion. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the motion passed. Wow. Next on the agenda is item number 11, County Manager, discussion approval of contract of project manager. Mr. Kerr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you tonight, you have the contract with Ascension Consulting Firm, who we have selected as to be the consultant project manager for the senior center expansion, as well as the construction regarding the animal control shelter. Jeff Prine, who is the principal at Ascension, is here tonight. And I'm going to ask Mr. Prine if he'll come up and he can introduce himself to you, tell you a little about his background and his approach to project management. This was, an RFP was put out for consideration. We had, I believe, 7 firms respond. A panel did review all of the applicants, and he conducted interviews before the search panel as well as members of the SPLOST committee, and Mr. Prine's firm was selected and as to be recommended for approval.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity to stand before you tonight. I come with 30 years of experience doing project management in the state of Georgia. I've worked for county governments, state governments, federal governments, and municipalities throughout the state. I live in Walton County, Monroe, so it's good to have a project on this side of the town. My approach is really to be kind of an augmentation of your staff and to bring my expertise and to use it as a way to help kind of move the projects forward. I have a history of bringing projects in on time and on budget, so we've already started. I've been working with the purchasing department to get the RFP out, pull together for our design and construction services, and we had a kickoff meeting this afternoon with the department directors and finance department, and and just to kind of get an introduction of myself, to talk about the schedule, budgets, and to keep everything moving. So I'm excited about the opportunity of working with Mr. Kerr and his staff and representing you. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir, and welcome tonight. Commissioners, any questions, please? Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming to visit with us tonight. I know you're just in the beginning stages, but some of the, I believe it was the 2017 SPLOST money was earmarked for the animal control facility.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people are most anxious to see a rendering of that particular facility. And so as soon as you could email one to us, it'd be great if possible, or bring one for display for a while at some point if you could. It'd be great.
Absolutely. As soon as we get to that point, that's be one of the first things we do. We've already started working with Cindy and her staff to identify specifically what her needs are, which are, as you can imagine, a lot. That facility needs a lot of work on it. We also realize that we have some challenges out there, but we're going to work through it with her and do the best we can. And as soon as we get these concepts pulled together, we'll make sure that we keep you up to date, working through Mr. Kerr and making sure you guys understand the concepts and the development and the progress we're making on the projects as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to say thank you so much for taking on this project. As a matter of fact, I got an opportunity to go out to our animal services shelter this morning, and met with Miss Cindy and saw exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
So I have a major idea of where we are now and kind of where we're going. And so I want to say I'm excited that you're coming on board to ensure that we really make this an important part of our community. I know some people may not feel like it's important, but it's important. And when I went out to visit today and I saw, like you said, it does need a lot of work. It hasn't been much investment put into it, and so I'm excited. And she's excited. Ms. Cindy's excited about what we're going to do. She's excited about you coming on board. She's excited about sitting down, coming up with the blueprints of this new facility, and how it's going to really increase the capacity that we currently have. And I think she was telling me right now we have about 23 areas that we can fill. And I believe with this new facility, it's going to probably give us anywhere between 40 to 50, which is going to help us really be able to do the things that we need to do to ensure that area of our community is taken care of. So I want to say thank you for coming on board, and we welcome you, and we're excited about this project.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
She has a passion for what she does, and that's the kind of people you want to work with, is people with those kind of passions.
Commissioner Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. C. Are we talking about building the new facility on the old facility site, or is it combining? I'm trying to.
What we talked about today is looking at the current budget that we have, is looking at a renovation and an expansion. And we still got to work out the details of what that looks like, but what we were talking about was the possibility of doing new construction for the containment areas for the animals, mm-hmm. and using the existing facility for the administration and viewing areas for the public and areas like that, which wouldn't require us to have as much mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades. And it allows us to work on the existing property. It keeps our grading costs down, and it allows us to sequence the job where we can expand, move the animals into the new facility, and then renovate the existing facility, and keep them in operation while we're doing that. So,
okay. Yes, and just one last idea that I had, since I used to pass by frequently over the years. And at one point I seen where with the methane gas, they had a burn thing down below the animal shelter. So if we're going to expand it across from the landfill, I mean, does it, and we know that the gas occasionally goes up under the road and they have to burn it off across the street, would that affect that facility? I mean, it's something that I think when you're in your planning or somebody planning, you need to take that under consideration.
We've actually done some significant testing here over the last couple of years. There was a point in time when some of the gas wasn't migrating, but currently at this point, there's not any evidence of any of that further migration. And we've been able, over on the landfill side, to trap a lot of it because we built the Solid Waste Authority put in wells and monitoring sites, and also that's not going to be an issue at this point. So that's.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you, sir. We are excited about the animal shelter. That is huge for us to get a new one. But I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of red shirts behind you over there in that corner. They are excited for you to be here, and I can tell you what, don't spend all your time over there. You better go over
No,
and visit them.
Miss Frieda will make very sure that I spend my time equally among the both projects. So that's exactly, yes, sir.
Well, listen, welcome aboard, and we greatly appreciate
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, I seek a motion, please.
Move to approve the contract of the project manager to oversee the building of the new animal control facility in the amount not to exceed $64,800 and funding from SPLOST.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is recreation. I'm sorry. All right. Oh, we got you guys. Yeah, we got you guys. Yeah. We just mentioned that. We got you. Thank you. Yeah, it was. You
want me to restate the motion?
She mentioned it in the motion. You want her to read the motion again? Would you like for her to read the motion? Could you state your motion again?
Move for approval of the contract manager to oversee the building of the new animal control facility and the expansion, and oversee the expansion of the senior services for the contract not to exceed $64,800 with funding from SPLOST.
Thank y'all. Next on the agenda is recreation discussion approval of construction service agreement. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a construction agreement for the construction of a pavilion over at the Miracle Field. The project will be paid for out of SPLOST funding. It will be $75,000 for this, and the contract is between the Newton County and Peak Steel contractors. The pavilion will measure approximately 75 by 57 feet, so quite a large structure.
Thank you. Commissioner, I seek a motion, please.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is development service, discussion and consideration of resolution R061819. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is for the adoption of the capital improvements element and the short-term work program, both of our comprehensive plan. As you will recall, the short-term work program and the capital improvement element were transmitted to DCA for review back in April. They have completed that review and found us to be in compliance with state requirements. And so now it comes back to you for adoption and to be included with our comprehensive plan. And so we request that you approve the adoption of Resolution R061819. And would you like for me to read the resolution?
Please.
Okay, sure. Whereas the 1989 Georgia General Assembly enacted House Bill 215, the Georgia Planning Act, requiring all local governments to prepare a comprehensive plan in accordance with the minimum planning standards and procedures promulgated by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. And whereas the Capital Improvements Element, CIE, update to the comprehensive plan for Newton County, Georgia was prepared in accordance with the minimum planning standards and procedures. And whereas the Short-Term Work Program, STWP, update to the comprehensive plan for Newton County, Georgia was prepared in accordance with the minimum planning standards and procedures, specifically Rule 110-12-1-.04, paren 2, paren B, 1, annual update option. Now therefore be it resolved by Newton County that the Capital Improvements Element, CIE, update and short-term work program, STWP, update to the comprehensive plan for Newton County, Georgia, dated April 16, 2019, as approved by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, is hereby adopted, and furthermore, that the Northeast Georgia Regional Development Center shall be notified of said adoption within 7 days of the adoption of this resolution, adopted this 18th day of June, 2019.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I seek a motion, please. Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please? Second. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is Public Works. It's requesting approval for the board to award the culvert replacement at Gumtree Trail to Peach State. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'd like to call up our County Transportation Engineer, Chester Clegg, to address this item for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We are still in the program trying to get the culverts repaired and replaced that were damaged back in April by the storm. And this is this one on Gumtree Trail off of Kirkland. Half the road's closed, and it's a one-way in, one-way out to cul-de-sac. And so we need to go ahead and get this repaired, and that's what this is about. It's a 72-inch metal culvert.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Commissioners, I seek a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval to award the culvert replacement at Gumtree Trail to Peach State Construction in the amount not to exceed $94,950 with funding from the 2011-2017 SPLOST. So you're going to get from both of them, right?
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Edwards. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chester. Next, Senior Services is requesting approval of 2019 to 2020 contract between Newton County Board of Commissioners and Georgia GA Food Services. Mr. Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This contract between with GA Food Services provides meals as a part of the Meals on Wheels program, but also provides bulk food for preparation of meals for the seniors who come to our facility at Turner Lake Park. And this is a long-time agreement that we've had with Georgia, or with GA Foods, and simply we're continuing that agreement, although it is a new contract, and so we would request that you approve that contract.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I seek a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the Senior Service requesting approval of 2019 to 2020 contract between Newton County Board of Commissioners and GA Food Services of Pinellas County Incorporated.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? All in favor? It passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is BOC approval agreement between Newton County Board of Commissioners and the Rising Sun Christian Church for property. Mr. Kerr, I'm sorry, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, before you tonight is an agreement between the county and Rising Sun Christian Church for property to be acquired for recreational purposes in the Nelson Heights community. With the BOC's direction, our office negotiated to acquire the subject property for $30,000. These monies will be paid from the SPLOST account and are part of District 4 improvements. This acquisition is subject to a 30-day due diligence period. We have already conducted the Phase 1 environmental testing, and it has came back positively for us, meaning that there was no issues. And we have ordered title work, and we would seek the board's approval of this matter.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, I seek a motion, please. Commissioner Henderson.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Second for purposes of discussion.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any discussion? Commissioner Schultz?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have some concerns, and I would like to ask some questions of the county attorney, if that's okay. Can you give us the appraised value and the assessed value of this property?
Yes, ma'am. The highest appraisal that we received, because we did do two in this matter, was $19,100. The assessed value of the property is $22,500. The first appraisal that we got in, being the lowest appraisal, was $17,000.
So the appraisal value ranged from $17,000 to $19,000. And the assessed value, that which is deemed by the tax assessor, is at $22,500. And we are proposing a purchase price of $30,000.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
So the other question that I have is that there are some monies that are owed by Rising Sun Church. Can you give us that dollar amount?
It's my understanding that there's a $3,000 outstanding amount for rental of the facility.
And that has not been paid?
Not that we could find. I did reach out to finance, and there was no $3,000 lump sum payment that we could find.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mason. Commissioner Henderson, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, first thing I guess for discussion is that when it was brought to us in executive session, everybody would sit around the table and agreed upon that $30,000 money amount. It wasn't something that was saying, and you looked at the same as Commissioner Schultz as you spoke about now, what was the appraisal value, and then the negotiated price was $30,000. If I'm not, unless I'm wrong, I was looking at everybody's face when we said that. And that was the agreed amount that we was gonna come back at some point and say that was the price that we would pay for that particular piece of property, 1.91 acres. Secondly, was we had paperwork that, see, it was a board set up over at Nelson Heights Community Center concerning the rental fees. It wasn't ran by the Board of Commissioners. It was ran by the board that was created by this Board of Commissioners. And we sent a board signatures, all the signatures, and that's why, back in the day and all the old stuff, we sent it to Miss Jackie, and it was a stamped copy requesting that at least $250 of that per month be deducted from that in-house work would be done. And there was something that I guess just kind of slipped through the cracks as always, and that negated that most of that supposedly $3,000 that was owed, and those books and in the monies that we took, and it was stamped. And what I just couldn't understand was this: each commissioner was allotted $500,000, $500,000 to spend in their district on the stuff that per their constituents' request. It has always been for the last 4 years. It's always been about Nelson Hike or the church, and it had nothing to do with this land acquisition. Nothing. Only thing it was requested that we wanted to buy. We had the money, $50,000 set aside, and to come with a price to pay for it. And we sat down here in an executive session and agreed upon $30,000 to pay to the Rising Sun Christian Church. The only thing I can understand is either you're going to be a person of your word or you're not. I mean, just be real. I mean, those are people whom I love, and we all should love one another, who just want a nice and decent place for their children to play and have fun, just like everybody else, just like on the north side of town. That's what we want. Just like over there on in District 2, Denny Dog Park, which I named, and was very instrumental in getting that property. It's way more than the few acres that we have in Nelson Heights that we're trying to acquire for the community. But it's okay. I mean, it's always taken from District 4, those people, those children, and taking the money and doing something else with it in the district that may not need it.
Thank you. Commissioner Schultz.
Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Jackie, I have some remarks that I would like you to record in the minutes, and I'll provide these for you. The Nelson Heights Community Center provides a very valuable resource for the children of the community. And those children definitely need a safe outdoor space to play. However, the purchase price for this property is 33% higher than the assessed value and 58% higher than the highest appraised value. Our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer requires us to be prudent with spending any SPLOST dollars. Therefore, I cannot support the purchase price of this property because I believe the purchase price is too high.
Hold on one second. Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Henderson?
Quick question. How could you get the executive minutes published? Because I think the citizens need to know exactly what was discussed on this piece of property, since there's been so much interest on it. And it's the same as it is in here. But it's something different when you come out in public. But I'm just gonna say this about me, J.C. Henderson. If I tell you something out on the street, I'll back it up behind this seat.
Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I was going through this and thinking through it, I had several questions, probably too many for the county attorney to answer tonight. But as I went through this, one thing I've realized, we don't have a plan in place for that area. Now, there's no scheme, there's no plan, there's no diagram of what's that's going to look like. We're just buying money, we're buying land just to buy land. It would make more sense to me, and I didn't think about this as we discussed this at the last executive session, but it would make more sense to me to do this as an option contract until we get a scheme in place to see what the site's going to look like. We don't have a plan in place. And I don't know what the vision is out there. If it's ball fields, is it other buildings? What is it going to be? We don't have anything in place yet, and we would just be buying land just to hold it. And that may not be the best thing to do, but if we put it under an option contract where you option it, and whatever you end up being the price on that, you can purchase the option at some point. It would make more sense to give us time, give the Nelson Heights Community Group an opportunity to design a plan for that area down there. And I think that would make, to me, that would make it a little more reasonable to me. Because as I went through all these questions I had, there's just too many to answer. And so if I got that much questions about it, I think it's time to take a step back and take a look at it before we go too far.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with, well, I'll start off by saying this. I was in the executive session, and so I know what was stated in that session. I believe that since that session, there were data that was presented that was not presented within that executive session. And so I believe that it's a well, I'm not going to say it's a possibility, it was, we made a decision without all of the data. We made a decision without all of the information. And so now that new information has surfaced, I agree with Commissioner Cowan. I think we need to pause, take a step back, look at the new information, reevaluate this to ensure that we're doing this from the most ethical and perspective as we can. And so I hear Commissioner Henderson, and I agree with him. I believe that District 4 deserves the recreation. They deserve, just like any other district, we all of our districts, we deserve a better quality of life. And I think that's the part, when we implemented this strategic plan, that was our objective, that was our goal, to create a better quality of life for all of us, not to negate anyone or to leave anybody out, but as we do it, because we're responsible for doing it the right way, the most ethical way, and that we are utilizing our citizens' funds appropriately. And so I think, with that being said, because there's a lot of vacillating back and forth on what we should do, I personally believe that at this particular point, we should, I make a motion to table this particular item. We go back, revisit it, and have additional discussion, and come back to the table once we've had additional discussion.
Are you making that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Can I get a second, please? Are you making it in the form of a substitute motion?
Yes, a substitute motion, yes.
Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Mason that we table this, and Commissioner Henderson has seconded. Can I get a date that you want to table this to?
Our next meeting, will there be enough time for our next board meeting, or?
I need to add that to this agenda. I need to make a motion. What about making that motion, that date for the first board meeting in August? Thank you. So it was motion that we table this, until the first board meeting in, August. And it was second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Passes 4-1. Let's do it. Okay. The next one, is, we gotta open this up. Okay, Ms. Martin, please.
Thank you, Chairman Baines. I would ask that the board table number 17 regarding the Project Morning Hornet. We have to advertise our public hearing in this matter, and we did not have enough time to satisfy the 15 days that is required by law. So I would ask that we put this on our next agenda. And I believe Ms. Jackie has spoken with Sam in my office about ensuring that that gets advertised on Sunday. So if we could table that until we could table that until July 16th. That would allow the ad to run, and so we are sure we're legally compliant.
Can I get a motion, please?
We could table item number 17 for the request of the county attorney to July 16th.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? It's tabled. Okay. Next, Ms. Martin, please.
Thank you, Chairman Baines. We have Ms. Hillary Edgar, who is a lawyer here in Covington, along with her client, to come speak to us about a proposed multifamily housing unit rehab that is being put forth by Covington Leased Housing Association. Their folks are here tonight to tell you about this project and to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually going to start. I'm going to start with Shamika Tucker, who's Executive Director of the Housing Authority, to tell you about the process that the authority goes through when they're presented with these bonds. These are a little bit unique. The Housing Authority, by specific statute, has the ability to issue bonds to projects, both public and private. We could do this for ourselves. We occasionally do it when we're presented with projects. Ms. Tucker can tell you about the vetting process that we go through. The specific purpose that we are here for is actually an IRS purpose. It is not the bond validation process. That process is separately done through the Superior Court of Newton County, which will be the next step that the authority and the borrower, who Jordan Richter is here representing them, that's a separate process that we'll go through. We are here specifically in front of y'all instead of the city of Covington because this project is located in the county. We have already gone through the city process. So that's from the legal side. From our side, that's what we're doing. I'll let Ms. Tucker tell you about what the authority board has done.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman and everyone else up there. Usually we'll receive a request for a bond from somebody that either wants to build or rehabilitate some apartments here in Newton County or in the city of Covington. In this case, for Arbor Lake, this is a rehab. These apartments have already been there. And usually when they're requesting a bond, it means that it is a tax credit property. That just means that they get tax credits in order to build. And usually when you get what's called a 4% tax credit, then you also get a multifamily tax-free bond. And as a housing authority, we are approved by the state to be able to issue those bonds. We receive the bond from whichever source it comes from. Sometimes it comes directly to us. A lot of them come through our attorney, Hillary. And once we receive it, they come, we set them up at one of our board meetings. They come and describe the project to us. And we do not own any of these properties. We don't manage any of the properties. All we do is approve the bond. A lot of times we get calls about them, which is why we always want to know that they're going to be well run. Some of the questions that we ask are about the quality of the building or the quality of the rehab. We also ask questions about the management company and whether the company who is currently building or purchasing the property will also be managers, and we look into their history of management to make sure that our citizens, even if they aren't staying on our property, are going to be properly served wherever they are housed. And that's basically the process. They come in, they will do a presentation. Usually we vote at the next meeting after the presentation and any questions are answered. We do receive a issuer fee, which is the standard across, as far as I know, any bond issuance of 1/8 of 1%. And that's pretty much the process. Most of the other, mostly everything else is handled by Hillary, which basically means a mountain of paperwork to sign. And we have a representative from the company that is purchasing Dominium, who's purchasing Arbor Lake, and will be conducting the rehab.
Hi, thanks for having me this evening.
Thank you for being here.
I am Jordan Richter with Dominium. As Hillary mentioned, we are a nationwide affordable housing owner-operator. We're the second largest in the country. We own and manage approximately 30,000 units, including approximately 4,000 here in Georgia. We became introduced to the city of Covington about 10 years ago. We were asked to step in by an investor that we work with to Wellington Ridge Apartments, which is a tax credit community, which essentially means rents are restricted at a percentage of the area median income. For Arbor Lake as well as Wellington, that's 60%. Rents are not subsidized on a project base, they are simply capped, and in exchange for that cap, we receive tax credits that are allocated by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to help facilitate building, or in this case, rehabbing the project. Arbor Lake was originally constructed in 2002. It is 250 units located off of Kirkland Road, actually very similar to one of the items on the agenda tonight. We purchased the property in February of this year, and our plan is to go in and do a substantial rehab of the property. It'll be approximately $10 million. That'll include new amenity spaces, new lighting, plumbing, flooring, countertops, cabinets, appliances for the residents, new water heaters, new mechanical systems, updating ADA accessibility paths and units to make sure, we're hitting the minimums that the state requires there. Upgraded security, new gates, et cetera, and we've done a lot of these projects. We've been successful doing them. We do operate on an occupied rehab basis, which essentially means for each unit, contractors are going to go in, they're going to spend a couple of hours over a week time frame getting that unit up and running, and then they're out of the resident's hair. We're on our way. We find at the end of these projects, usually the community's very happy. Our residents are extremely happy because their rent isn't affected by this rehab, but they're getting a new unit. We're able to take care of a lot of deferred maintenance of the property. And one other thing to point out would be, if we don't do this rehab, if the Housing Authority doesn't issue these bonds, this property is still going to be affordable for the next 14 years. This is simply a way for us to recapitalize the deal and make sure that it's successful, it's operating, it's not becoming dilapidated. It's a nice place, it's a nice community for people to live in. And in order to get these tax credits from the Department of Community Affairs and finance this rehab, as Hillary and Ms. Tucker pointed out, we do need tax-exempt bonds to be issued. And that's not so much a benefit to the project as it is a requirement by Section 42 of the tax code. If you are using 4%, also known as uncompetitive LIHTC credits, you are required to finance at least 50% of the project with tax-exempt bonds. That's a statutory minimum, no way to get around it. And I guess one other thing to point out is these bonds, when they're issued, they're conduit issued, they're privately placed. In this case, it will be with Freddie Mac, and ultimately securitized. They are solely repayable by revenues of the project. The housing authority takes on no guarantees. The county takes on no guarantees. They're simply conduit issued to allow us to do this resyndication and support it financially. With that, I can open it up and answer any questions.
Thank you. Did you get his name? Did you get his name? Yeah. Could you state your name, please?
It's Jordan Richter with Dominion.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Schultz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Arbor Lake, currently, are they rent controlled? Are they a specific type of subsidized housing? I know where they are, but.
Yeah, currently 200 of the 250 units are restricted at 60% of the area median income. What that means is you have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments there. So there are residents ranging from incomes of $30,000 up to $44,000, $45,000, depending on if it's a single person, if it's a family of 4, etc. As part of the rehab and the resyndication, we would take the 50 current market rate units that are unrestricted, and we would restrict those at 60% of the area median income as well. And that's really because in order to do this rehab of all the units, you need to support it financially with credits. And in order to do that, due to the way that those credits are calculated, the applicable fraction needs to be 250 over 250 instead of 200 over 250.
So how does that impact private investors who want to build multifamily, that in terms of rents? Is that calculated into the rent structure, the rent comparables for the county?
Typically on these projects, if you have somebody coming in and developing traditional multifamily unrestricted apartments, there's not going to be competition due to the multifamily market, both here as well as, you know, in the rest of the Atlanta area and the rest of the country sees large gaps in rental rates between these affordable housing units and traditional unrestricted. So generally, and in this case, we're seeing gaps of a 1-bedroom unit is going to be between $150 and $300 more to go rent at an unrestricted apartment. So we don't really play in the same space, if that makes sense.
And I guess my question is, if we, you know, because that area is in the Alman or is near the Alman overlay, which we have higher density properties, and we will allow higher density. And so if we're trying to attract a higher player that's an unrestricted, are those comparables going to be included in their comps? So that they're not segmented out.
We're actually in the process of doing a housing study. We're actually in the process of doing a countywide housing study. And as we're looking at, and we've already completed the part about the apartments, just for our purposes, we separated which ones were tax credit properties and which ones were just plain market rate. That's more of a commercial real estate agent question, and we didn't bring one with us tonight. Mm-hmm. However, I would think that if you were looking, when you do the comparables, you're going to look at the different types of structures for the multifamily housing, because something like what they're going to put over at Town Center is going to be it's in a different category than Arbor Lakes. Now, while Arbor Lakes will look really nice once it's done, especially once they get done with the renovations, it won't be in the same category. For example, I have a sister that lives right on Far Road in Buckhead, And her apartment is only 600 square feet, but it's, the ceilings are high, and it's a Buckhead apartment. So she's paying $1,450, I think, a month because she got a deal. I think the normal rent is close to $1,800 a month. That wouldn't be in the same category, even with some of the other, some of the rent-controlled apartments that they're building in the same area.
And this particular, Arbor Lake is not going to be limited to a certain age group demographic. It is basically limited to a economic category.
That's exactly right. It's limited by income, not by age. And just kind of going back to that previous point, Ms. Tucker's correct. If you have somebody coming in and doing a feasibility study on higher end apartments, they're not going to include this in the comp set because it's going to be a different tenant. The majority of the tenants at our property are not going to be able to afford those rents. And I would view it as a benefit in drawing those people in, because I think, as I mentioned before, this is a property that it's going to remain affordable. 200 units, at least out of 250, are going to remain affordable for the next 14 years at 60%, whether we do the rehab or not. And with our planned rehab, it's going to be a really nice property for that time. We're going to be able to add a lot of amenities, a lot of street value, as I mentioned before, additional security, etc. So I view it as, a great deal for the neighborhood, a great deal for residents, because it does ensure that it's going to remain a nice community for the next 15 years.
Anyone else? Thank you, guys. Now this portion of our public hearing, we want to open it up for the community, those that want to support this, and the applicant, those that want to support this. You have 10 minutes to come up and speak in favor of it. If you would, please come up and state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone want to speak in favor? Anyone want to speak in favor? Please state your name, your address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman,
Good evening.
board members, county attorney, county clerk, and county manager. I'm Gladstone Nicholson, 495 Lakeside Circle, Covington. I'm here tonight because I want to see improvements in all over the county, and this is an area that is close to me as well, so I'd like to see that developed. However, I'm not sure if I've heard anything about what the maybe I stepped out, I didn't hear it, about the additional square footage that's to be added. I'm not sure if that's going to be for additional units or it's just for additional amenities. I just think that should be a question that is answered, but by all means, I am in favor of this thing.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Anyone else want to speak in favor? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. We also allow 10 minutes for those to speak opposing this. You may come at this time. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Anyone want to oppose tonight? Anyone want to oppose this tonight? Thank you. That portion of our public hearing is closed. Commissioner Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had one more question, and I can't remember the boundaries for the Almond overlay, if this is inside the overlay or outside the overlay. But if it is inside the overlay, do the changes comply with the overlay? And I guess the question to ask is, because it's right there on the line, is it inside or outside the overlay? It's right down the street from the property that we just voted on tonight to include in the overlay. But I don't know if this is inside or outside because that overlay boundary winds around.
I think we definitely would have to take a look at the map, and as far as whether or not the requirements would apply, That's a good question as well. I mean, it depends on whether or not there would be, I think it would depend on whether or not there's going to be exterior changes or if it's all interior changes.
Yeah, if
It
it's all-
sounded to me from, and maybe he could address that, whether there would be.
If it's all interior changes, there's no problem. It's that if there's additional square footage added or if there are exterior changes that it has to comply, and I just don't know where that boundary is.
I'm not sure on the boundary. In regards to changes, there will be no square footage added to any of the buildings. They will be painted, re-roofed, et cetera, but architecturally, they will not change. The additional, I believe, square footage maybe mentioned before will all be exterior in the form of playgrounds, a sport court, an enhanced pool area, et cetera, which I would guess do not fall under that overlay.
I think we just need to clarify, because it would have, any of their changes would have to comply with that overlay, so we just need to make sure whether it's inside the boundary or not.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to oppose? All right. That portion of our public hearing is closed. I seek a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to approve with staff recommendation and Commissioner Schultz wanted to make sure that it's outside or inside of the overlay plan that it complies with it.
Thank you, sir. Can I get a second, please? It's been motioned by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any more discussion? Commissioner Edwards?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wouldn't we want to know before we take a vote whether this thing is inside or outside an overlay?
What's voting on the bonds?
Yeah, we're voting on I think we're voting on the bonds, but
Financing.
Yeah, but even with that, you're voting, it's an up or down vote in support of this whole project.
Commissioner Henderson?
Lloyd, could you help us on this? I'm pretty sure you're kind of familiar with the property. I hope.
But legally, if it's inside the overlay, then they will have to comply with the overlay. So, you know,
if what I'm hearing is, if I understood it correctly, any additional square footage is going to be in the form of recreational activities, recreational things. I did not hear that the buildings would be additional square footage.
Okay.
So, and that they're architecturally, they were going to remain the same, that they'll be painting and so forth. But, and I went by the apartments the other day, all of the exterior cladding material is approved material in the overlay already. There may be some discrepancy with some of the porches, but I don't know that. I'm just putting that out there. But yes, I mean, if it were inside of the overlay, then it would have to comply with all of the requirements of the overlay. And that would include, that may include, and I just don't remember all of the tenets of the overlay, but it may include something with recreational areas as to, but the apartment complex may already meet all of those requirements. But so, and that could be made as a part of the motion, I would imagine, would be that it would have to adhere to all of the, if inside of the, you know, it's not necessary, but you could make it as part of it.
Please.
You're stating
please.
the obvious. She said it was outside.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Pass 4-1. Thank you. I need to amend the agenda at the last moment here. I need to amend the agenda to add a number 21. We need to make sure that, yeah, go ahead.
you guys know, I'm pretty strict on this one to make sure our agenda always is full so our citizens can see what we're working on here each day. It has come to the chairman's attention that the agenda does not contain a topic regarding the board's meeting schedule next month in July. As such, the agenda should be amended because this is necessary information to give to the public to include this topic.
So I need to state it. Guys, so normally we don't have but one meeting for July. And so to do that, we need the board approval. We didn't do it early on in the year, so we need to do it now. If you guys want to continue to have just one meeting in July and not meet, I think it's the second, and not meet the second, I need a motion that we do that.
Motion as stated by the chairman of the board.
Okay.
Second. Third.
Okay. Wow. So all in favor? Okay, discussion. Commissioner Schultz.
So typically, I prefer to have every meeting, so I just want to let you know why I will vote against this, because I believe that we need to have meetings as we are charged to do, so.
Okay.
Y'all can enjoy yourselves.
Okay, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And typically, I would agree with Commissioner Schultz, but we booked a vacation based on the two previous years of my commissionership. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Passes 4-1. Thank you. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments. We'll allow citizens to come up and make comments. If you would, you have 3 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name, your address for the record, please. You may comment this time.
Good evening. Scott J., 10170 Star Street. A couple observations on topic 17, which I think went to 16. Did the park ever reopen? Does anybody know? The park at Nelson Heights? Is it still closed? The one that with the mulch gate?
Come on, guys, we don't.
Okay, well, anyway,
Go ahead,
the mulch problem.
Go ahead, sir.
If that park is still closed, maybe that's something that needs to be addressed to give a little better quality of life to the children that are already over there. If that park is still closed, that's a major failure. Number two, this is an important observation I don't think anybody brought up. If the Commissioner Henderson is a deacon or any point of leadership within Rising Sun, why wasn't that brought up? And why didn't you recuse yourself?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Please state your name, your address for the record, please.
My name is Gene Wills. I live at 125 Homestead Way, Covington, Georgia. I guess I want to talk about the Nelson Heights situation also. As far as I understand, if I was to move here, let's say in 1950, I've been forced to live in Nelson Heights. It wouldn't matter how much income I made or what could I buy anywhere else. I've been forced to live in Nelson Heights. Nelson Heights is something Newton County created, Covington created. Where I'm from in Pennsylvania, same situation. Well, in our city is where I'm from, the part of the city I am is also looking pretty bad. Because once the people who were forced to live there become successful, then the laws change where they can move somewhere else, they leave. And those people who are left behind are the ones who couldn't do as well for some reason. We act like we don't have any compassion for our fellow human beings. After the Civil War, when the Confederates came back, they shouldn't have got their land. You lost. Should have been prisoners of war. But that didn't happen. You would think they would be grateful. But no, they turn around and make segregation laws and they lynch people. They punish people. And now we're in 2019. And if a dime goes to Nelson Heights, we got a problem. A lot of people have a problem with it. They want to know, well, how come those people can't do for themselves? Well, because you put them in a situation and make it very hard for them to do for themselves. We got to start showing some compassion and start understanding why people are in the condition that they are in. We got to get past prayers and other things and take action. Yes, go pray. You can pray till you faint. But if you're not going to do nothing about it, God is not going to put it in your lap. We put people in the positions to stand up for us. Democrats. Every time you vote with a Republican, it better be something good for all, because we really have a problem with that, especially when we need help in Nelson Heights. And we got a problem with helping those people. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Guys, anyone else? Anyone else? What do you say? Hey, guys. Hey. I'm gonna tell y'all ain't gonna turn this boardroom into some kind of show. That ain't gonna happen. And I'm talking to both of you. It's not gonna happen. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any comments tonight, but thank you anyway.
Commissioner Mason. Commissioner Schultz. Commissioner Henderson.
And since I didn't come in on to the gentleman who left concerning the park over in Jefferson Street, if I wouldn't put your child or let your child play on something that's dangerous no more than I would let my child play on it. Those same people, and he was, I believe, one of the people in the video that I had or that it sent me, was putting mulch there that had iron and rocks and nails and glass, but it was okay for those kids to play in out there on Jefferson Street, but they wouldn't have put it nowhere else in Newton County or nowhere else in Covington. And the only thing that I said then, I still say now, like what I said a few minutes ago, the same thing I said back in the executive, I'll come out here and say it. I'll say it out there on the courthouse steps. I'll sit out in the park. I'll say it anywhere that I'm at, I'll tell you what I said. And what I said was that I want the best for those kids, the same as any other kids in Covington and Newton County. And when it comes down to people who are maybe not as rich as some and may not own a little supermarket or a little plaza, but they want the same thing. They want the same thing as all parents want. They want good stuff, good education for their kids, and a nice school where they can go and their kids can be educated. So if they choose, they can leave and do better. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Commissioner Cowan. Commissioners, I seek a motion that we adjourn. It's been motion by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Edwards. All in favor? Thank you.